So we've been talking about Phase 5 of Marvel for a little bit now. We've mentioned Ant-Man Quantumania and how it was really bombing in the box office, how it had a fantastic opening day, opening weekend. It really did. And then it experienced record-breaking drops, all right? And for the MCU, it has experienced nearly 70% drop in the second week. I believe it's 70% if I'm not mistaken. That is a massive, massive, massive drop. Even for an MCU movie, a superhero movie, it is still a massive drop. And now we have an article from CBR talking about how even though Quantum Mania hit a skid at the box office, is there hope for the rest of Phase 5? Now, me personally, I don't know if there's hope for the rest of Phase 5, okay? I didn't see this movie. I've said it many times. I did not see this movie because I don't want to give Marvel the money. I really don't. I'd rather just read a synopsis and go about my day because honestly, Marvel has lost me. Marvel has lost me for a while. Phase 4 was just absolutely terrible in every way. Even the TV shows, man. I couldn't even bring myself to review the TV shows at the time, even though I really wasn't doing TV reviews at the time just yet. But maybe I would have started sooner if they were even somewhat interesting that I think people would have liked to watch. But unfortunately, a lot of people hated what was coming out from the MCU on Disney Plus and also in the theaters. And Ant-Man Quantumania is no different. Ant-Man, I don't think, is the movie they should have started Phase 5 with, but I understand that they wanted to make some sort of storyline regarding Ant-Man and Kang, and I feel like it really fell short. I also feel like the reshoots have severely hurt this particular movie. There were so many reshoots in this movie, especially towards the end when they wanted to interject jokes into the movie because they felt like the movie was too serious. And that's unfortunate because I feel like maybe a serious tone in this movie probably would have sold it better. But let's see what this article from CBR has to say. So it says Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is dealing with critical and financial freefall, and it may be a sign of things to come for some future MCU films. Now, I also think what's hurting the MCU big time is their presentation. Their presentation is nowhere near as good as it used to be. They do not have a great CGI department anymore. It's been proven, it's been shown. And CGI, especially in a movie like Ant-Man, is something that you cannot cheap out on. And unfortunately, they decided that that's how they're going to initiate their cost cutting on top of other measures as well. And it's really starting to show in their presentation. It's really starting to show in their product. You cannot get people used to a certain level of like detail and then completely nuke it to the point where it's at now, or at least the point of which Ant-Man Quantumania was at, or where the point where She-Hulk was at. You know, She-Hulk, we're not even going to get into She-Hulk, but She-Hulk was pretty damn terrible. Even for a TV show, was pretty terrible. So it says Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is the first part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Phase 5, but it's not starting things off on the right foot. Beyond its tepid at best reviews, the film is also underperforming at the box office. That continues a downward trend for Marvel Studios' shared universe, and it may only get worse. Quantumania had a lot riding on it. Despite being a sequel to the more low-key Ant-Man films, its negative fallout is seeing it break MCU records in the wrong directions, and the movie could definitely end up being a flop. With so much still up in the air for Marvel's future, this isn't exactly the boost of confidence the studio needed to get things back on track. I also think that Thanos was such a amazing villain, right? Thanos was such an amazing villain. How they introduced Thanos was such an amazing villain. How they portrayed him, he was just that guy. You know what I'm saying? He was that guy. He had the factor. He was that guy. I don't feel like Kang can follow that up. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you should have started off with Kang and then maybe brought in Thanos, because Thanos just feels like a bigger threat than Kang. Even though they're trying to say Kang is a bigger threat than Thanos, I just don't feel that way. When I watch it and I watch it go down, like when I saw Loki, I just didn't feel like I was seeing the next big bad. I thought I was just seeing a bad. You know, I don't know if that makes sense, but I just really feel like Kang is not that guy, at least not yet. And that's not to the detriment of the actor, because he's a pretty damn good actor. So that's not to the detriment of him. It's just to the detriment of the story and how they're presenting it in Marvel right now. So it says Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice was incredibly controversial, with many seeing its poor reception and contentious nature among even hardcore DC fans as being the moment in which the DC Extended Universe was doomed. This reception got reflected in its box office intake, with the film experiencing a 69% drop in revenue in its second weekend in theaters. Quantumania has done even worse, with its 69.7% second weekend drop having done a much smaller intake than the DC flick. Many have debated whether the third Ant-Man film would make 100 million domestic in its opening weekend, and while it did pull this off, it's so far been downhill from there. The film is currently underperforming everywhere, with its domestic haul actually being something of a bright spot. Quantumania is a certified flop in countries like China, which were once major markets for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Alternatives Cocaine Bear and the film Jesus Revolution might not seem like actual competition, but they did surprisingly well in their opening weekends compared to the drop-off for Quantumania. This competition is only going to get worse, with Creed 3 and other upcoming films squashing what remains of Ant-Man like a bug, but while things don't bode well for the Paul Rudd movie, it could be even worse for the future of the MCU. Now, yeah, I'm not surprised. Like I said, Ant-Man, I feel like Ant-Man is just not the way, man. Like, why would you start Phase 5 with Ant-Man? Ant-Man notoriously are not some of the most successful MCU movies that come out. People just really don't care for Ant-Man as much as other characters. I'm just being real. Some people do love Ant-Man, and that's perfectly fine. You can love whatever character you want. But I'm saying that ultimately, on the grand scheme of things, for most normies, most people don't care about Ant-Man. Most people care about some of the other characters that came before Ant-Man. So Ant-Man starting off Phase 5, especially after such a terrible Phase 4, probably wasn't the smartest idea. Whether they feel like it was or not, I just think financially it just probably wasn't the smartest idea. It says one major complaint about the multiverse saga in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that there's not much been connective tissue following Avengers Endgame. Quantumania villain Kang the Conqueror is supposed to be the new Thanos, but he's only now getting introduced in a film he arguably shouldn't have even been in. And when coupled with the script and special effects issues playing the movie, it's no wonder that even some diehard MCU fans are giving the flick a tepid reception. That's showing up now at the box office and is part of an unfortunate decrease in interest in the shared universe. The only recent MCU movie to perform at the same level or above its predecessors is Spider-Man No Way Home, which I'm not surprised. And again, Spider-Man No Way Home was mostly Sony anyway. It wasn't even Marvel. Of course, they're going to take credit because it was in their Phase 4, but ultimately it was still mostly Sony. It says it escaped making $1 billion and mainly rolled the nostalgic cameo hype of No Way Home. Thor Love and Thunder disappointed many, which saw its box office suffer. And many of these films featured fan-favorite heroes who have been seen since the earliest moments of the MCU. If their and the Ant-Man's adventures aren't drawing crowds anymore, it could spell doom for what Marvel Studios plans next. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is likely a lock in terms of being a success, as those films' popularity almost transcends the MCU. Unfortunately, the deck is stacked against the recently delayed The Marvels, which notably connects the two Disney Plus shows. Likewise, it remains to be seen how some of the mantle swaps will play out with the general public, as Captain America New World Order will feature Sam Wilson as the new Cap. Yeah, I just don't think people are going to like it as much, man. Like, it's just... MCU should have really ended. It should have ended, you know, and I know they're not going to end it. Obviously, they're going to keep going. There's a lot of characters they can still introduce, but ultimately, after those 10 years, that was the main hype, and it's pretty much, that's kind of like your peak hill, right? So you peaked at Endgame, and now you've been kind of going downhill from there. The only thing is, going uphill during the initial 10 years was a very slow climb up that hill, and now you are rapidly falling down that hill after Phase 3 into Phase 4, and now going into Phase 5. It's been a massive decline. It's been such a hard decline, a hard fall. So I really don't see how they're going to recover from this ultimately at the end of the day. I think maybe people are probably looking for more prominent characters before they jump into Phase 5. But considering you introduced your big bad in Ant-Man Quantumania and not a lot of people are seeing it, it doesn't spell justice towards Phase 5 and how good it's possibly going to be. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.